So it's been 2 days since I said something about that mirror, and every time I've gotten out of the car, my damn GPS is just not hanging on my windshield no more. I waited for it to happen a few times, and yeah, that's more believable of being a coincidence than the mirror. So I don't know, it's just one of the things. It's to make you do stuff to make you look even more unstable, because certain compartments aren't aware of what other compartments are doing. For example, moving my mirror. I guarantee you there's a compartment directly involved in what's cultivating the environment and circumstances I'm experiencing that doesn't believe that it's a possibility that someone has been moving my mirror or this, that, and the other. So whenever I start breaking out a camera or surveilling or doing videography or anything like that, it just makes me look like a loon, because they've been indoctrinated to think it's a sign of paranoia. It's just numbers, man, and a really effective means of hindering individuals' progress. You have to prepare for the worst case scenario, in other words. And when it comes to fruition, you can't think that you manifested it. You have to see it for what it is, because you'll really beat yourself up for shit that you shouldn't. It's crazy how you can look back on the facts and what you actually have done and what you haven't done, and how you can morph that into bad decisions because of your fucked up perception from all the stress and confusion and gaslight. Some things are planned out, man. Just like this whole fucking big scheme is planned out over hundreds of years. This shit is planned out, months to years for these personal agendas. There's sets of events that I can see coming, that I prepare for in case certain shit happens that most people wouldn't even consider. And those things actually fucking happen. And there's not much that I can do about them except see them coming. The important aspect about confusion is not knowing whether you're doing the right thing or not, because that inadvertently leads to thinking you're doing something wrong. And that leads to constantly trying to change what you do or what you want to do in hopes of the circumstances changing. And whenever you're changing your own circumstances, especially, you wonder if you made a big mistake. If you wonder, should you stop doing this? Should you start doing this? And then you have to look back and forget all the connotations that arise of leading you to think you have a defeatist attitude, and just look at the pattern recognition alone and take the opinion of other people influencing yours out of the equation, and just see how things have already happened. You have already tried these things. You have already thought it was because of this, it was because of that. I'm doing this. It comes down to you're staying in a low vibration. If you constantly think you're doing something wrong, your confidence will be low. Therefore, when things are done to you, or things happen as a result of what you've done, as a result of the circumstances you're in, you'll feel guilt for it. You'll be putting yourself down, and you'll never even look at the picture for what it is, instead of what people are trying to tell you what it is. It's all your fault. At a certain point, yeah, you got out of bed. I mean, it's just fucking crazy, dude. It really is fucking ridiculous. Everybody's at fault for whatever, I get that, but it's a lack of knowledge, and it's not by chance that that's happening. There's a lot of work that goes into the lack of knowledge that's in a lot of people. It's supposed to stay that way. My point is, try not to fall into the trap of thinking any of this is a result of what you're doing or what you're not doing, because it's ultimately about them morphing your environment for to suit the avenue they want you to take. And that's within itself an illusion, because when and if you ever do that, none of this shit stops depending on who you are. Most of this shit is permanent. And with it being permanent, there is no way for you to make it stop. And you can't make it better or worse if it's all based on your perception. I don't give a fuck how many times I say it. I'm going to continue to say it. When you really wrap your mind around how everything is a replica of the other thing, and it's pretty much enamored in you, to where you do it second nature, you start seeing little things and other things, and start noticing how things you'd normally overlook represent something that you can't even see. And walking into the store just now, saw a ripped up lottery ticket laying on the ground, and I said, that's the problem. It made me say, that's the problem. You get your chance, and the chances are about as high as a fucking scratch off. So when you lose, you rip it up, throw it in the parking lot of the store that you bought it in. Fuck them motherfuckers. That's what we're doing, man. That's what we do. We get one shot, and we have to invest in it. And it's just a matter of chance. And you have so many people with such low odds, with their only means of feeling as if they're getting even would be to just pollute where they're at. And that's where we are, man. It's just the same concept of somebody saying, fuck this goddamn store. I don't never hit nothing on this lottery ticket when I buy from here. You know, they rip it up and they throw it in the fucking parking lot. That's what we do when we miss our shot, or we find out something and we just start polluting any and everything because of sheer spite of the environment and the conditions. First, they gotta take cash away, so that way you can't save up your money by being an entrepreneur. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because if you can't tangibly hold your money, then you can be denied access to it. I know that because I don't have a bank card, and I do it to myself. And it's almost as if I'm training myself for the fucking future. Because when you can't have cash and you only have a card, and they implement this social credit system, they can lock you out of your fucking money. I mean, I've heard people getting locked out of their cards already. I mean, that's nothing new. It happens. It gets fixed, though. But you cannot know where it is. You never have as much. You never actually own the money ever. It's because it's not real. But at least when you have paper, you know where it's at. It's in your fucking pocket. So it's like everything's moving to cashless. And they're trying to get rid of the mind state of a entrepreneur in the true sense. Because someone who doesn't give a shit about money is ironically a type of entrepreneur that only invests in his business and uses the money for security, you know, if something goes wrong, you know, with the business or personal life. If you still have that personality type out here when they start having that social credit system, then they could really give a fuck about how much money they receive. And then on top of that, they'll be able to save that money up and still do something with it. And if they get rid of the majority of those type of people, when they implement the ability and the policy and the punishment of locking people out of their bank accounts, there'll be a lot less people that they do that to, and a lot less people who will oppose it happening on an influential level. But yeah, it's one thing to be upset about what happens behind closed doors with what we deem authority. But when it gets down to a personal level and it's what's going on behind your back, it really makes you approach the situation differently than the people watching people. Because I'm a person being watched by other people watching people. And these people watching people seem as though they're not aware that there's people watching people watching people. And then there's people watching people watching people watching people. And then there's a person and an entity. And the closest anybody will ever come to that is symbolism and death. And it's worrisome to know not only the potential of what could happen as a result of what's happening now, but to understand that every plan that was ever made came to fruition if the government wanted it to, mostly with impunity. But there are areas where I heard one guy make a presentation about it. I've done a little reading myself as well. One element that's just hard to ignore and is concerning to me is this police predictive software, predictive policing software. It's almost worse than a full-blown social credit system. The only reason it's not worse than a full-blown social credit system is because it's more than the precursor to it. It's the foundation being built for a very corrupt version of the social credit system, as if it wasn't already corrupt to begin with. There's a difference in it having a blatant potential for being corrupt involved and building a foundation that is completely corrupt from the beginning. it's like the kettle calling the pot black. But it is a much worse situation we're creating over here with this predictive policing software. Because on the social credit system, it's just the disconcerting idea that you can't get away with anything. You're going to be held accountable for all your actions from that point on. There's nowhere to hide, and there's no room for error as far as judgment. And by the time people realize a mistake has been made, the victim's life is fucked. I mean, just look at the incarceration situation now, how fucked up it is, as it is, with all the room for error and getting away with things. That naturally opens up the avenue to place the blame on someone else. But ironically, with the way things are now, as easy as it is, it will become even easier with the social credit system, because they're doing facial recognition, they're doing EEG reading, EKG reading. You're basically walking inside of a big ass polygraph test that, you know, and polygraphs are usually accurate, but they can give false readings due to the person being nervous. And a lot of the elements of the social credit system is probably hidden in the places that's already having it up and running. Somebody can be interpreted as guilty or a liar due to a false reading. But even with that scenario being controversial and disconcerting as it is, what we're building over here has got to be 10 times as bad, because we're building the foundation and collecting the data before we even let it be known to the general public. It's slowly been revealed to the general public in certain places, and even in those certain places, it does not get as much press as it should. So it's still flying under the fucking radar, where it's completely full-blown, building the foundation for the social credit system people don't think is going to be here. And the way they're doing it is they're doing the same thing everywhere, and they have been doing so for quite some time. But they're slowly revealing it to us as if it's new. And as I said, they're barely even letting that happen. And when you do the researches on the places where it's out in the open, half-ass, and you read up on how it's being done, it's fucking incredible, dude. Because at least with the social credit system, you know what not to do. With this situation, even being aware that police predicting algorithms and all that shit's happening, you still won't be aware of all the points you're racking up. And the people who are involved are under the same fucking thing, and they don't understand that. Everything, it's like 5 point, they say in LA, for instance, and this was some years back, you get 5 points for every anything there is. I mean, it's ridiculous. If you go to a certain area, you get 5 points. If you talk to a certain person, you get 5 points. If you carry a firearm, 5 points. You get arrested, 5 points. And all these are 5 points or more, by the way, depending on how many times you did it. And after you get to a certain amount of points, you get put on a targeted list, and it's unbeknownst to you. And then they start basically punishing you and pushing you into a certain direction to where you will become a part of this reporting people, because people are reporting each other. Like, nobody even understands that it's just building up data for when the social, and you can also get arrested and have the charges dropped, and it's still 5 points. Like, it's just, if you call the police, you get 5 points. It's any interaction with police whatsoever, you get 5 points. And that rates your level of suspicion, danger to the public, danger to yourself, possible terrorist, potential criminal. And all this shit is going into a database somewhere. There's these things called fusion centers. And that's where all the data that they're going to compile for each person's record once this social credit system bullshit drops. And that is going to reflect how much money you get in your bank account. And there will be a set time where you get that amount of money. And it's going to be based on what we're doing now and how many points we've fucking accumulated. And that is fucking bullshit. And not only that, they're trying to cleanse the people who aren't going to give a fuck about having money. They're trying to cleanse those people by putting them in prison with FBI managed aggression, community provocateurs. I mean, it's just all the same shit. It's just different names for different tier levels. I mean, it's just like you got a fucking city cop, county cop, state cop. It's all the fucking same, dude. But they create all these situations where
you lash out. A lot of those situations, people are given the choice if they compromise themselves. And some people, they don't even attempt to give them that chance because they just know they ain't gonna go for it. They just try to go either kill them, make them kill themselves, or put them in prison. They're in the way. They're a problem. We got some new shit coming along, and too many people are okay with it due to false perception, ignorance, or compliance. So when it gets here, not only is the foundation going to be accumulated under our noses, it's going to be applied, because it's all about preventing crime. And in order to justify the organizations and software being used and methods and tactics being utilized, they have to literally create crime, because it all stands on the same principle as what the social credit system is supposed to stand on. And I oppose the entire idea, whether it's running right or it's wrong, just because of the blatant potential for corruption and manipulation and danger. Like, really, it's just dangerous, dude. Just living through the tactics that are being done to me. I know what it would do to people, because it's been done to me. And seeing this happen on a mass scale, as far as like just imagining it, it's fucking scary, man. I mean, this shit really is not an experience I would recommend anyone go through. But once they start basically giving us allowances, they're at a certain amount, what you do will affect, from that point on, your money. The amount you get next month will be dictated by all the points you accumulate over a month's span of time, or 2 weeks, or a week, whatever the fuck, however the hell they're gonna work it. Well, you got to understand, in order for this to work, they have to get rid of cash. Because, for one thing, some people, if they don't work, they don't need money. Straight up. Like, if they're not going to be an entrepreneur, they don't need the fucking money. All they need to do is fucking survive, literally. Like, they need a place to eat and sleep and shit. They don't need fucking money, as long as they have food. And that's what's so fucking ironic to me. And it's like, it's hard for me to wrap my mind around things progressing so rapidly in this direction. Because this whole fucking thing is a business, man. It's a business. It's built on entrepreneurship. It encourages entrepreneurship. It victimizes the customer, just as any successful business does. And yet, they want to eliminate entrepreneurship right under your nose, man. You don't understand it, because people are thinking this is a hustle, fucking snitching on people ain't a fucking, it's not work. It's just not work, man. The level of commitment and dedication you put into it may be difficult, depending on how much you care about it and how much money you want to make, but it's really not work, man. It really isn't. Sitting around watching a motherfucker is not work. Manipulating someone else's life who is working isn't work. It's destroying the economy, is what I'm saying, because it doesn't represent capitalism. It doesn't represent entrepreneurship. It represents indentured servitude. Like, you're working for a future that you're gonna get gypped out of, just like the same motherfuckers you make fun of. Like, I'm aware that I've been fed bullshit, but I still do it. It's just, I'm aware it's bullshit. I'm not just gonna switch over to the other side thinking that ain't bullshit. I mean, that's fucking stupid, dude. I know it's not feasible for me to do the right thing and fucking work where I'm working and eventually get a raise and have enough to support a family. And that's the American dream for a fucking reason, dude. It's because it's not real. It can happen, yeah, but it won't happen the way you think it will, and if it does, it's not going to be what you think it is. But it's destroying the economy, man, because it's like, it's capitalism and entrepreneurship is what keeps this going. And the only reason all this stuff is happening is a loophole within the business. There ain't no fucking loopholes in a fucking country. There's no such thing. There's loopholes in a business. And this particular loophole is destroying this business, just like any fucking loophole would. And it just so happens to be this loophole is surveillance. This fucking slush fund that's just leaking the air out of the whole fucking tire, dude. It's just like a a job that's built on production, that fudges on the numbers and purposely slows down production in order to receive a loan or a budget to invest and further the fucking company. But we're not based on production anymore. It's not fucking feasible to think we can keep doing this. So everybody who catches on to it and thinks they're in the best place they can be thinks it's gonna get better, when even the fucking Bible says the meek will inherit the earth. I don't have no problem with nobody. I have a problem with the way we've been pitted against each other and manipulated and indoctrinated to have psychological fucking problems. And I get annoyed and frustrated, but I mean, if people can watch the news and get mad, but if they were to actually, this is ironic too, because they do just repeat themselves over and over, but if somebody fucking taped the 10 o'clock news and went home and watched that same fucking hour worth of news every day for a fucking month, if they got so mad they almost had a heart attack the first time they watched it, do you really fucking think they'd give a fuck by the end of the month? That's me when I wake up and experience what I'm experiencing. It's fucking stupid, dude. You get to a certain point where it drives you crazy because you're so tired of it. But then it's just like, dude, I don't fucking care. It's just happening, man. It's gonna get worse and worse and worse, and then there's gonna be a level out stage. It's like love bombing with a narcissist. It's just fucking stupid, the shit that happens.